So the next thing I should do here is I actually need to create some kind of margin. I don't want, I mean, as much as I can bleed color off, I really don't want my text to go there. So depending on how you're going to set up your postcard, you can make margins on the inside. You don't necessarily have to do that right now unless you already have a firm grasp of what you want this postcard to look like. Generally, I would say to you, every postcard is going to look different. So this is how you want to set it up. And then you will do your text boxes inside. Remember to stay on the inside of the actual trim line, which is this second box, okay? Like the first box we drew, the second box you're seeing on the inside. Now, I'm going to put in the crop marks because right now, just looking at this, it's hard to decipher how to use it. So again, a crop mark, you all know, I think I've shown you how to make a library before with crop marks. I've already got a library, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw a quick line to show you, right? Up here, you see how the line also has a representation for the transform tool, and you want to keep these positioned as perfectly as possible. So the length, keep it at something that makes sense, like a 1/2 inch. The next thing you want to do is you want to position it on the actual trim line, not on the bleed line, but it should not touch your postcard edge. Okay, so it shouldn't touch this box. It should only touch that box because it's going to be cut off, right? So, and we want it to be cut off. So again, I'm going to select the bottom reference point, and here's where that 0 becomes really handy, okay? If I reset 0 to the trim line, instead of having it on the corner of the page, this manipulation is going to get a lot easier. So I'm going to grab the 0, and I'm going to set it here. And then I'm going to select this. So you can see 0 and 0, right? It's been inset on the page. So what I'm going to do now is from the bottom, moving upwards, and you see how this is a minus position already, okay? If I go in here and say minus 0.125, okay, it's moving it right to that actual bleed line. So the X goes side to side, the Y goes up and down. So let's reverse this now. Okay, so let's go in here and say, actually, in this case, I would like minus 0.125. Okay, and then on the X, you actually want to put it at 0. So now the same is true of I need to duplicate this and set it over here. So if I go up under Edit, Step, and Repeat, all right, I'm going to just put this here so you can see this. I'm going to do a count of 1. All right, I'm going to hit the preview so we can see what's going on. And vertically up and down, right now I don't want it to go anywhere, but horizontally I would like it to go to 6 inches. All right, so now I find this happens sometimes that you cannot see the preview. For whatever reason, it's not showing. In this case, it's because I don't have a stroke on that actual crop mark. So let's go back, take a step back, and just, you know, again, we want to make sure it's 0.25 or 0.3. They're exactly the same. And it needs to be, wrong box. It needs to be registration black. Okay, I got the length. I just didn't get the rest of it. So now when we go into Edit, Step, and Repeat, you should see it. So if I do 1, and this becomes 0, this one becomes 6, you can see there's the other one. Now here's where it gets kind of interesting, okay? Because you should be able to do this in a grid. It sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, so I'm going to wing it and see if it works. And if not, come back for part 2. All right, so columns. We only need 1, and we only need 1 row. But what we need here is to understand that from this point, because that's the reference point we're using, from here to here is going to be an 1/8, okay? So let's do that, 0.125. Plus, from here to here is exactly 4 inches. So 4. From this point to this point is another 1/8. So plus 0.125. And lastly, we're measuring from the bottom, so we need at least one measurement for the length of the actual line. So this one we know is a 1/2 inch. I'm going to hit 0.5, hit tab, and I should be able to see them at the bottom, but I'm not seeing anything. And this happens sometimes. When you're using the step and repeat, oftentimes you'll do something like this and it will not show up. Okay? It will not show up. And that's only because it's trying to do a calculation it's not sure of. All right? Also, in this case, it might just be that I needed to say 2 rows. It's 2. So that's how you do it. All right? You hit OK, and you have those first crop marks in place. And they're positioned perfectly because you did it using math. So let's try the other ones now. All right? So again, I'm going to draw a line. And this time I'm holding shift as I drag. This time I'm going to actually do it horizontally. Again, I'm going to go and make my length a 1/2 inch, so 0.5. Again, I'm going to go in here and say 0.25 for my stroke weight. And again, I'm going to hit the wrong thing. I'm going to make it registration black. So InDesign holds on to the last thing I did, as you can see. So it's still registration black. So at this point, I need to select this. I'm going to change the reference point. I'm going to actually make it on the inside. So this side here. And again, depending on which way you're going, in this case, I want to bring the Y up. I'm going to say 0, right? So it's brought it up. And I'm going to just correct this one. It's really close to being in the right position. I'm just going to change it to 0.125 because that's where it should be. And now it's sitting in the right position. Your next situation is edit, step and repeat. And you're basically going to do the 2 again, but you see how it's in the wrong position here, going horizontally across? And it's technically going to be in the wrong position here as well, because from this point to here is only 4 inches, right? And if the math is correct from the other way, this is going to be 6.75. And again, you would do the exact same thing where you would negotiate the math. So just for the sake of reference, you can see that this is correct visually. All right. I'm just going to do it for the sake of argument so you can see the math one more time. So the space from this point to the actual trim is 0.125. All right. I'm going to add the actual horizontal width of this. So it's actually 6 inches in this case. I'm going to hit a plus again. And remember, I'm going to have from, and the 6 inches, by the way, is this point to this point. From here to here, I need 1/8 of an inch again. So 0.125. And my last measurement is going to be that 1/2 inch. That is the length of the actual trim line. Okay. So 0.5. If I hit tab, 6.75. So it's exactly the same thing as I put in before. Once you've got this all together, you can go ahead and hit OK. Doing the duplication. Normally, you could do the math and do the step and repeat, but in this case, it's not really necessary. So let me show you the easiest thing that you can possibly do. I've already gone back over here, double click to put the 0 back in the corner. I'm going to select everything, including the crop marks. Now, understand when you're doing this marquee the way I'm doing it. So click and drag on the outside and then try and select everything. Don't select that dividing line, that guide that we have there, because guides can be selected. And when they're selected, they actually become colors. So you really want to leave it there. You also don't want to move it, right? That one has to stay where it is. So select everything but the guide. And remember the old option key? Click and drag when you're hovering over something. If you engage the option key, it shows you a double arrow, means it's preparing to make a copy. Click, shift, drag, so that way try and keep it in the same position. All right. Now I'm going to just drop it on the line here because it's hard to see, how much space there is here. So here's the thing. If I take a look at this one, oops, sorry, I grabbed a guide. If I take a look at this one at the top, let's just put that back in position. If I look at the Y, right, the x-axis is at 4 1/4, but the Y is literally got a little bit of a strange number because you can see how far it is from the margin of, from the edge of the paper. right? So I'm just going to, select this, copy it, right? Take my 0, reposition it right here on the edge, on the line, come down here and select this, and then just paste that number in there, hit enter, and they are exactly identical on either side. The last thing you should do at this point is just double click the 0 back into position, right? So it's measuring everything. And this is now your template. So when I go into any page from this point on, I can bring down, more pages. It's going to have that as a background. And as you know, nothing gets selected. It's locked to the back. So you're fine. You can place all your artwork on top and not worry about it interfering with your guides. So you've effectively just made guides for this document.